There are some things happening in Russia, and the name Wagner is popping up everywhere. After this, we realized that a lot of people are interested to get to know this group a little bit better. The Wagner Group started around 2014, the time Russia annexed Crimea, and annexing this piece of land was with the help of Wagner. This group gets sent all over the world with the order of the government. Like for example, they've been seen in Syria, Mali, and Mozambique. But the group wasn't that famous until the Ukraine war started, and after, the Wagner Group was known worldwide. The Wagner Group is very secretive, so it's hard to know what is happening and who is in charge. But what we know is that this group gets paid to fight wars. And this type of military is called a PMC, which stands for Private Military Contractors. And you could say Wagner is a network rather than a group, so it's hard to pinpoint it. And they did this so you can't put one group at fault for doing something terrible. Where did the name Wagner come from anyways? There was a member of the Russian army by the name of Dmitry Utkin that came up with this name, and it belongs to this German fellow named Richard Wagner. It's good to know that Richard Wagner was Hitler's favorite composer, and I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with that information. Either way, right now, Yevgeny Prigozhin is the leader and founder of the Wagner Group. Prigozhin is a Russian oligarch, and he would always deny that he's part of Wagner. But at the end of the year 2022, you saw his face in the videos that were taken of the Wagner Group, and he would also make videos for the young Russian people to join Wagner. There's a giant luxurious building in St. Petersburg that belongs to the Wagner Group, more specifically Yevgeny Prigozhin, and you could consider this the headquarters of Wagner, and that is extremely weird because private military like this is considered illegal in all countries, but in Russia, in the best city in the country, they have a headquarters like this. So that shows us that Yevgeny Prigozhin has to be cool friends with Putin, right? Yes, they are very old friends. After the USSR collapsed, Prigozhin used to sell hot dogs in the city of St. Petersburg, and Vladimir Putin also used to live in St. Petersburg. We don't know how they met. Maybe he went to get a hot dog and he got to know Prigozhin. But when Putin comes into power, he invites Prigozhin to be his personal chef in the Kremlin. And of course, Yevgeny Prigozhin accepts the offer. After this, Yevgeny climbed the ladder of power in Russia. Before the Wagner Group enters Ukraine, they were in 8 other countries in the world. You would see Wagner Group in Venezuela as well. But the most amount of money they make is from African countries. Countries that have a lot of rich dictators, and they pay them to protect the government from being overthrown. And most of the African countries pay them in terms of minerals or give controls to their mines. Mines like gold or other gemstones you can find that is extremely precious and rare. Any country that Wagner goes to protect, not only do they actually get paid, Russia's influence gets bigger in that area as well. Like for example, in the year 2017, the president of the Central African Republic hired Wagner to protect his regime. And alongside the Wagner Group, Russia supplied them with weapons. The Wagner Group fights in the Central African Republic and protects the regime, and in return, one of Prigozhin's companies in Russia gets the rights to extract minerals from one of their mines, and this is how Prigozhin gets paid. A lot of people believe that the Wagner Group is the real government of the Central African Republic, and even the protectorate of the president is this group, and that means the president will not survive a few hours without Wagner. The Central African people are extremely against the Wagner Group because they treat the people of this country like animals, and there has been plenty of reports that they've been shot in the street by Wagner, and unfortunately nobody takes responsibility for something like this, and they're so powerful not even the president of the country can ask them to stop this or why are you doing this? Like in 2022 in the country of Mali, there had been some videos surfaced that the Wagner Group was executing normal people in the streets. Either way, wherever the Wagner Group fights wars, they don't have to take responsibility for anything. It seems like they want to do the same thing with Russia, based on the recent news we've seen. Even though it's a huge problem what the Wagner Group does in African countries and other countries, who's gonna stop them? Who's gonna send their men to stop this group and have a war with them? That is why they're kind of free to do whatever they want, because they're the most powerful force in that area. You can't even count on the United Nations. You guys remember what they did during the Rwanda genocide, where hundreds of thousands of people were killed in only 3 months. And the UN didn't do anything. And of course, NATO is not gonna go fight their wars because there's nothing in it for them. And by fighting the Wagner Group, they're kind of fighting the Russian government, so they don't want that. Alright, let's move somewhere else where the Wagner Group has had a huge effect in the last few months. Ukraine. In the beginning of 2022, it was the Wagner Group that took over Solidar Ukraine, not the actual army. More than 50,000 soldiers work for the Wagner Group, and the US government believes that 90% of these soldiers are prisoners in Russia, but none of that has been proven yet. The Wagner Group is a form of strategy for the Russian government. When they want to do some weird stuff around the world and they don't want to get the actual military or government involved, they send the Wagner Group. And if stuff hits the fan and something goes wrong, they don't have to blame the actual government for it. However, the Wagner Group has done the same thing with Russia's government. Just like you've seen everywhere, 2 days ago, Prigozhin sent all his men and forces towards Moscow, and he would say Russia is gonna have a new president. Moscow announced a state of emergency, and around the city of Moscow, everything was blocked. The Russian government immediately put out a warrant for his arrest and said this is treason. 7:30 a.m., Prigozhin announced that he has taken over the city of Rostov. And Putin, president of Russia, announced that he will protect the people from any threat, including from internal betrayal. It's also interesting to know when Wagner was going towards Moscow, any store with groceries and food in it, they would empty out, and they would always take free fuel without paying for it. There is a highway in Russia called the M4, and it connects Rostov all the way to Moscow in one line. Wagner was heading straight to Moscow, except when they got to Voronezh, they were stopped, and different Russian military aircrafts like helicopters start attacking the group, and they wouldn't allow them to pass. But Wagner was not gonna go down this easy. They started shooting at the helicopters, and they shot down 6 of them. In this situation, a deal was made. The president of Belarus contacts Prigozhin. He tells him to stop moving forward and come to Belarus, and we're not sure what the deal was, but Prigozhin accepts the offer and retreats. And in simple terms, the president of Belarus offers Prigozhin asylum if he retreats, and that's where he is right now. In different news networks, it said that this was a coup that was stopped in under 24 hours.